So today we've reached the topic of the imperative verb. And the way the author speaks about that is that he says, may Allah have mercy upon him, وَأَمَّا الْأَمْرُ بِالصِّيغَةِ. As for the command by an established pattern in the Arabic language, not by a mere particle, but by a phrase, if you want, which is the verb of command. وَهُوَ أَمْرُ الْحَاضِرِ, which is commanding the one who is present, commanding the one in attendance. So that's his wording there. And what does he mean? He means what people call second person, which is the mukhatab. He means here by al-hadir, the one in attendance, the one who's present. He means al-mukhatab, the one being spoken to. But that doesn't deny that what they call the third person, which is al-ghaib, the absent one, is actually present. How could the absent one be present? Because he's not called ghaib because he's not present. He's called ghaib because he's not spoken to. So it's possible that the one who's not spoken to is actually present. And then you'd say to him, I'm not speaking to you. For example, I'm talking about you in your face. فهو جار على لفظ المضارع المجزوم. So this is how you command the one you're speaking to. That's what we want to talk about today. Yani, this is the normal command. You might not think about the command in this way. Who are you speaking to? Or speaking about, or what? But this is the case. That means, in other words, that the command originally pertains to you. Yani, I'm translating into English. You, the one you're speaking to. So in Arabic, you'd say, what do you have in Arabic? You have anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, and antunna. I didn't repeat antuma since it's already written. I'm able to translate each one of those into English with the same word, you. So what else do you have in Arabic, though? You have huwa, huma, hum, hiya, hunna, ana, nahnu. All those ones, they don't work here. Only these. That's why if you see some charts of Arabic verbs, and amongst those charts is the fi'l amr, then fi'l amr is always going to have fewer examples because it only pertains to these. Doesn't cover huwa and hiya and ana and nahnu. We'll see what the author has for us. So he said, وَهُوَ أَمْرُ الْحَاضِرِ. This command that we are discussing is commanding the present person, meaning the one you're speaking to. فَهُوَ جَارٍ عَلَى لَفْظِ الْمُضَارِعِ الْمَجْزُومِ. It is running. Jar means running. Yani, a runner. It is a runner according to the expression of a mudari' verb had it been majzoom. Yani, uh, its pattern resembles the pattern of a mudari' majzoom. We'll see. He says, فإن كان بعد حرف المضارعة متحركا فتسقط منه حرف المضارعة وتأتي بصورة الباقي مجزوما. It gives you the rule. If what comes after حرف المضارعة with a فتحة on the راء مضارعة, if after the mudari' letter there is a vowel, then you're going to drop the mudari' letter, harful mudara'ah, the mudari' letter, you're going to drop it. وَتَأْتِي بِصُورَةِ الْبَاقِي مَجْزُومًا, and then you're going to bring the rest of the verb looking like it's a mudari' majzoom. فَتَقُولُ فِي أَمْرِ الْحَاضِرِ, and so you say in commanding someone present. Min tudahrij, you would say using, for instance, the verb tudahrij. So tudahrij, let's notice here why he chose tudahrij. For several reasons. One is he wants to present to you a verb that has a vowel after the mudari' letter. So the mudari' letter is that ta in the front. And there's a vowel after it because that's what he said. If what is after the mudari' letter has a harakah, then you're going to drop the mudari' letter and bring the rest of the verb like it's majzoom. Okay, but something else here too. Why he chose tu dahrij with a ta? There are 4 mudari' letters. Why didn't he choose udahrij or nudahrij or yudahrij? Because tudahrij here is for anta. He wants to bring you an example of someone being spoken to in the first place. He doesn't want to bring you the example of the speaker or the one spoken about. He doesn't want to say udahrij or nudahrij or yudahrij, and then from there turn it into a command for someone you're speaking to. Rather, he wants to, in the first place, bring the verb for speaking to someone. To keep it there, to start there and keep it there as we look into the process of turning this verb into a command. So that's why he chose that one. That's how you're supposed to do it. If you teach somebody, if you don't pay attention, you're going to say yudahrij, and then you're going to start. And then somewhere in your process, you're going to say, oh, well, I should have said tudahrij. So you would say dahrij, roll something. So tudahrij here, look. Tudahrij. Tudahrij. So if there's no nasib or jazim, then should be marfu'. If there were a jazim, then it's going to be majzoom, and the sign of jazim is a sukun. Lam tudahrij. If we want to make the imperative verb in Arabic, we're going to bring the mudari' verb, but remove the mudari' letter so that it's actually not a mudari' verb anymore. It's not a mudari' verb. It's a different kind of verb. It comes from the mudari' verb. So we need to remove the mudari' letter, and we don't need lam anymore, and just bring the rest of the verb majzoom, meaning ala surati al-majzoom. That's why it says surah. It looks like it's majzoom. It's not really majzoom though. It's just built like that. It's mabni. It's built like a mudari' verb had the mudari' verb been majzoom. And so you would say dahrij, dahrija, dahriju, dahriji, dahrija, dahrijn. Okay, I'm going to show you. وهكذا تقول في فرح وقاتل وتكسر وتباعد وتدحرج. Yeah. So, if the verb is dahraja, if the verb is dahraja, then you'd say anta tudahriju. You're informing. Anta tudahriju. You're not commanding. You're not denying here also. There's no denial here. Anta tudahriju. You roll something. So then you're going to remove the mudari' letter. And in this case, before we remove the mudari' letter, there is a vowel after the mudari' letter. You dahriju. So we're just going to remove the mudari' letter, and we're going to say, when it was here, anta, the mudari' verb would have been to dahriju, to dahriju. So then the command's going to be dahrij. And the mudari' verb would have been antuma tudahrijani, tudahrijani. And if you were to make that majzoom, it would become lam tudahrija. So then to make the command, you're going to just remove the mudari' letter. And since there's a vowel after the mudari' letter, all you have to do is bring the rest of the verb like it's majzoom. So you're just going to say dahrija. And so from antum to dahrijun. So then the command is dahriju anti to dahrijin. So the command would be dahriji. Antunna to dahrijna. So then the command is going to be dahrijn. And then he gave us other examples. He said that's what you also say for farrih. So you would say farrih, farriha, farrihu, farrihi, farrihna. And qatil, qatil, qatila, qatilu, qatili, qatilna. Let's look at the metin here. He said, وَهَكَذَا تَقُولُ فِي فَرِّحْ وَقَاتِلْ. So qatil, what did the children of Israel say to Musa alayhi salam? They said to him, فَذْهَبْ أَنْتَ وَرَبُّكَ فَقَاتِلَا. They said فَاذْهَبْ أَنْتَ وَرَبُّكَ وَقَاتِلَا. So there, قَاتِلَا. They said, so go you and your Lord and fight. إِنَّا هَاهُنَا قَاعِدُونَ. We will be sitting right here. That's a very good homework assignment. What you should do for homework is take these examples. فرح, قاتل, تكسر, وتكسر, وتباعد, وتدحرج. Turn them from the maldi to the mudari to the command. So if it were maldi, you'd say فرح. You'd say فرح. What is the mudari? يفرح. What is the amr? فرح. But now I just did what I told you somebody's going to do. The command comes from which one? If you wanted to really do it for the sake of the command, for the sake of arriving at the command, then you're really going to say farahta, because it's all about who you're speaking to here. You're speaking to someone. Farahta anta, then that's maldi. So you say tufarrihu anta, and then from there you get the command. Farrih anta. But the way I wrote it the first time, farraha is huwa. Farraha huwa. Yufarrihu huwa. Farrih anta. So that's what you don't want to do. If you do like that and you're teaching some person, then you're going to somewhere realize that, I should have started like what I just did right now to keep the pronoun consistent. That's why the author started like that from the beginning when he said in his example, تقول في أمر الحاضر من تدحرج أنت. You would say دحرج أنت. دحرجا أنتما. دحرجوا أنتم. دحرجي أنت. دحرجا أنتما. دحرجنا أنتن. وهكذا تقول في فرح. And that's the way you would say it for فرح. So you say فرح, فرحا, فرحوا, فرحي, فرحا, فرحنا. So that's homework assignment for you. Even if I didn't check it, for your own sake, you would do it. So to make sure you understand and to have some practice. And if you know other verbs, do it with those too. He says, وَإِنْ كَانَ بَعْدَ حَرْفِ الْمُضَارَعَةِ سَاكِنًا. However, if after the mudari' letter there was a sukoon, a letter with a sukoon, فَتَحْذِفُ مِنْهُ حَرْفَ الْمُضَارَعَةِ. You will still remove the mudari' letter because it's not a mudari' verb. What if someone say, I'm confused though, why is not mudari' a verb? Because it just comes from mudari' a verb. Doesn't the mudari' itself come from the maldi? You would say fa'ala. That's a maldi. How do you get to the mudari'? You take the maldi and you add mudari' letter to it. And you change the vowels. Yafa'alu. So same thing. Yani. Fa'alta. Taf'alu. So then how do I get to the command? Just, I need to remove the mudari letter because it's not mudari anymore. And bring the rest of the verb majzoom, like it's majzoom, ala surati al-majzoom, with the appearance of being majzoom. But now, as you can see, if I do it this way without anything else, the word would start with sukun. So I need to, as the author is going to tell us, summon a hamzatul wasl. I'm going to say if'al. So he says here, وإن كان وإن كان ما بعد حرف المضارعة ساكنة. If the letter after the مضارع letter has a sukun فتحذف منه حرف المضارعة. You will still remove the مضارع letter. وتأتي بصورة الباقي مجزومة. And you will still bring the rest of the verb, with the appearance of being مجزوم. مزيدا في أوله همزة وصل, but adding to its beginning a hamzatul wasl, which is a conjured vowel. You're conjuring up a vowel here. Maksuratan, and it's going to be kasra, that vowel that you are conjuring. إلا أن تكون عين المضارع منه مضمومة, unless the middle letter of the mudari verb has a dhamma. فتضمها. Then if that's the case, you're going to summon a dhamma. You're going to summon a hamza with a dhamma, or conjure a hamza with a dhamma. فتقول انصر. انصر here. انصر. انصرا. انصروا. انصري. انصرا. انصرنا. وكذلك, and you say اضرب. There's kasra here because the mudari, the middle letter, the ayn of the verb, does not have a dhamma. So you're going to say idrib with kasra, and irlam also here with kasra, because the middle letter does not have a dhamma. And one qati' wajtami' wastakhrij. In qati', you're going to summon a kasra because the middle letter does not have a dhamma. Ijtami', you're going to summon a kasra because the middle letter does not have a dhamma. Istakhrij, you're going to summon a kasra because the middle letter does not have a dhamma. You know what I mean by middle letter? The middle root letter, the middle original letter, the ayn of the word. Only when the ayn of the word has a dhamma, you're going to summon a dhamma, like unsur. Nasara yansuru, su. Yani here, the dhamma on the sad. So in the command, you need to summon a dhamma, unsur. And then he gives one more case. وَفَتَحُوا هَمْزَةَ أَكْرِمٍ بناء على الأصل المرفوض فإن أصل تكرم. He says, when it comes to the command of أكرمت أنت تكرم أنت, you're going to say أكرم. أكرمت تكرم. So, because the past tense has that dhamir attached to the end. But when you say the command at the end, akrim, there's no pronoun attached to the end. And also, even when you bring the mudari, there's no pronoun there. Tukrim, akrim, tukrim, akrim. That's why you might feel inclined, or you might be heedless, and when you start with the maldi and you want to get to the amr, You might say akrama, but akrama is huwa. He's going to say akram, yukrim, akrim. There's no pronoun in any of these, and sounds like the pattern is there for you. Akrama, yukrimu, akrim. But this is not the best way, because you're going from huwa to enta. So you want to really keep it enta. Akramta, enta. Tukrimu, enta. Akrim, enta. He's telling us now a third case. وَفَتَحُوا هَمْزَةَ أَكْرِيم. They, who's they? They is the ancient Arabs, not the scholars of Arabic language. Scholars of Arabic language just describe what's there. وَفَتَحُوا هَمْزَةَ أَكْرِيم. They put a fatha on the hamza of akrim, the command. بناء على الأصل المرفوض, based on the rejected or disregarded, based on the disregarded origin. مرفوض from ra, fa, dad. Rafd is refusal. فَإِنَّ أَصْلَ تُكْرِمْ to أَكْرِمْ. For indeed, the origin of tukrim is to akrim. Okay, so what he's saying is, now there's third case. If you recall, when we first learned these awzan, we learned akrama, yukrimu, and that there's a dhamma on yukrimu because the Maldi has 4 letters. And I was waiting for someone to ask me, what happened to the hamza in akrama? And I didn't want to mention anything ahead of time. It would have not been in its proper place, and then probably not clear. It would have, at the wrong spot, been information overload. So, akrama, the wazn of akrama, as you know, is af'ala. And the wazn of yukrimu then is yuf'ilu.
Yeah, Ustad.
So where is the hamza? They refused it, those old Arabs. Had they kept it, they would have said akrama yu akrimu. They would have said you. No, not like that. Sorry. They would have said yu akrimu, and then to akrimu and nu akrimu. But what about if it were ana? If it were ana, it would have been u akrimu. If it were ana, it would have turned out u akrimu. And it was for this one here that they took away the hamza for all of them, because they didn't want to have these two hamzas here, akrimu. Then they took away this hamza here and just kept the mudari one. So they say ukrimu, and they kept that hamza out for all the other mudari forms. So you say أكرم أنا نكرم نحن يكرم هو تكرم أنت.
Yeah, Ustad.
Okay. So then where is the yani what happened in the command? In the command, that Hamza that got decommissioned comes back. So you say Akrim. And that's what the author's telling us here. وفتحوا همزة أكرم بناء على الأصل المرفوض. They gave a fatha to the Hamza in the command Akrim based on the refused origin. فإن أصل تكرم to أكرم. For indeed the origin of تكرم أنت is to أكرم. So then he told us here. Here's synopsis of all what he said. Synopsis of all what he said here is if your fi'l mudari' has a vowel after the mudari' letter, like when you say tufarrih, then there's a case. And if there's no vowel after the mudari' letter, like when you say ya'lam, then that's a case. And if the maldi is on the pattern of af'al, yes. Question? Can't see my screen? Okay. Screen's frozen. Okay. So everything that I said about Ekrim was not seen? Okay. So all this that I have here, I'll repeat it for you. Okay. Akrama, that's Maldi Hua, of course, has pattern of Af'ala. How does the Mudari' go? The Mudari' is Yukrimu, or Tukrimu, or Nukrimu. So the pattern is Yufrilu. I was saying, when we first learned these patterns, I was waiting for someone to ask me, what happened to the Hamza and the Maldi? Why we don't say you akrimu? But no one asked, and I wasn't going to bring it up myself because it wasn't the place yet. Had I mentioned it then, that would have been an information overload. Excuse me. But now is the time. When you talk about the fi'l amr, that's the time to bring up this disappearing hamza from the pattern of af'ala yuf'ilu. So when you do the command, well, before that, so yukrimu, the origin the author told us of yukrimu is yu'akrimu. Akrama yu'akrimu. But they don't say yu'akrimu. Why not? They don't say yu'akrimu because out of the four mudari letters, one of them is a hamza itself. Had they kept this hamza, then they would have wound up saying huwa yu'akrimu, anta tu'akrimu, nahnu nu'akrimu, and then what? Ana u'akrimu, u'akrimu. And it's exactly this last one that they want to avoid. They don't want to commit to this hamza, and then as a result, whenever it comes to ana, can't see it. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Can you see it now? Okay. It's not blurry also. That's fine. It's not too small. So it's exactly this one that they want to avoid. They say if we keep this hamza, if we commit to this hamza here in the mudari', then when we want to use it for the speaker, we're going to double the hamzas. We're going to say u'akrimu. And they didn't want to commit to that hamza there. So they said, well, look, let's not say u'akrimu, let's just say ukrimu. Then a question arises. But if we drop the hamza there, what about the other ones? Yu'akrimu, tu'akrimu, nu'akrimu. So then the answer was, let's drop it everywhere. We don't want this hamza in the mudari'. So then they didn't commit to it, and so they just said, yukrimu, tukrimu, nukrimu, ukrim. But when it comes to the command, they brought back the decommissioned hamza. The one that's in akrama with the fatha on it. And so for the command, they said akrim. So how do you tell a person to embrace Islam? You say to him, aslim. Imperative verb. Okay. So that's what the author says here. That's the meaning of what he said here. وَفَتَحُوا هَمْزَةَ أَكْرِمْ بِنَاءً عَلَى الْأَصْلِ الْمَرْفُوضِ. They gave a fatha to the hamza in akrim based on the disregarded origin, that disregarded hamza. So the synopsis of all of what the author told us here is that you have, for the mudari' verb, 3 cases. Either what's after the mudari' letter has a sukoon, like ya'lam, yani, we can say like ta'lam, or it has a vowel like tufarrih. What's after the mudari' letter we are saying, or it was an omitted hamza like yuslim. There's an omission in yuslim. So in the case when what is after the mudari' verb having a sukoon, then in the command you're going to summon a hamza to wasl, and you're going to say in this case i'lam. And we're going to give it a kasra since there's not a dhamma on the middle letter. And if there were a vowel after the mudari' letter, then all you're going to do is drop that mudari' letter. You don't have to summon any vowel because there's already a vowel, and you're just going to say farrih. Now there's no need for us to summon a vowel, a hamzatul wasl. And in the third case, you're going to reinstate that hamza, and you're going to say akrim. From to, or tuslim, aslim, etc. Wallahu a'lam, and Allah knows best. Any question? Is this discussion about akrim, qiyas or sama'? Qiyasi or sam'i? Or sama'i? Mm-hmm. Well, to know af'ala yuf'ilu in the first place, af'ala yuf'ilu if'alan, you need to hear it. And that's going to stay consistent. Af'ala yuf'ilu if'alan, aslama yuslimu islaman, akrama yukrimu ikraman, an'ama yun'imu in'aman, etc. Amana yu'minu imanan, that's there, but that's ghayru salim. So the consistency of that pattern is qiyas. But the mere dropping of the hamza here, to know that when you say yukrim, you drop the hamza, that's sama'. You're going to hear it. You're not going to know without hearing it. And then you're going to stay consistent from there. Ameen wa iyyakum. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.